welcome, and Lynette Wainwright, and Matt as well. Thank you. And I would like to just make a little note that there's a possibility that I may need to leave the meeting early. I just have something that there's something happening in my family situation that may mean that I need to leave early. And if I do, Dennis will take over as the chair for the meeting. So just letting you know that. I think everything will be fine. So first of all, I would like to just move that, I suppose we don't have any, oh, there you are, Satnam. Good one, thank you. Yep, so we don't have any apologies. I'd like to move the status of the agenda be confirmed and that all reports be received. Seconder.
I'll second that.
And all in favour?
Aye.
Thank you. And just like to ask if there are any disclosures of interest on any agenda items today from board members.
Nope.
No, it doesn't look like it. Thank you. And I'd just like to confirm the minutes. I'm going to move the minutes of the meeting held on Wednesday, 27th of October, that they be accepted. So I just need someone to second that, please.
Yeah.
Chris, thank you. All in favour?
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. So now we have our, so this is an opportunity for those of you who would like to speak public forum. You may not have done this before at a community board meeting, and you may not have joined a Zoom meeting before, but I can see that you're all on mute, which is great. And when you come to speak, if you could just obviously unmute yourself, you'll have 5 minutes to speak on your topic, and just welcome you here to share with the board. Yeah, that's right. Just put the hand up. Yeah, so you can either put your hand up just visually like that, if we can see you on video. Otherwise, you can just use the little hands up emoji to let us know that you'd like to speak. So I'm opening up now for the public forum. If you could just say your name so that we know who you are, that would be great. So just anybody who would like to start from the public forum. So Juliana?
Yes, that's me. I'm Juliana.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
And what would you like to share with the board or ask of the board today, Juliana?
Well, it's where are you guys at with being able to get into the public facilities without a vaccine certificate? I'm curious to know what your stance is on that at the moment.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for raising that and asking that. Is that something, Alison, that you would like to respond to?
Hi, Juliana. So the council will be considering the matter of vaccine passes for council facilities on the 13th of December. So that decision hasn't yet been made, but that council meeting will be broadcast live on YouTube as this meeting is now. So 13th of December, which is next Monday.
Okay. Thank you.
Was that it from you, Juliana?
Yes, for now. Yes, I'll just listen for a little bit, and then if I have questions, I'll raise my hand again.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Monica, yeah, thank you. Monica?
Hi all. I just wanted to ask similar thing to Juliana. Maybe Alison can answer that. What is there any channel, or is this community board the channel where we can, as public of the community, put thoughts forward for the council to consider about the council buildings, about their decision before they make a decision? Is there a channel? Is there a way to do that?
So Monica, your best, so raising it in this forum is probably the best way to go about that. And so we have Councillor Thompson on this call today, and so she will take any views from this meeting forward into her council considerations on Monday, but there's no formal consultation as such, but certainly your views will come through your councillor.
Okay, thank you. So we wait to give our views for in the meeting. I just don't know how it goes because I've never been in it.
Well, I'll pass that back to the chair in terms of how she wants to manage that feedback.
Yeah, thanks, Monica and Alison. Lisa, you would like to say something?
Yeah, and I'm happy also for you to send me an email as well, because the public forum only goes for half an hour. And so I'm happy for you to email me or to call me as well. I'm happy for you to do that.
Cool. Thank you, Lisa.
Monica, did you want to share anything about your thoughts here today, or are you happy just to follow through and that way getting in touch with Lisa directly?
I'm happy to be in touch with Lisa directly if that's more, you know, I don't want to take time, and I haven't constructed like a speech in my head. I just know what I want to say, but I can email about that, or maybe I'll listen, and if I'm more ready, I'll say some words.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Yeah, no pressure at all.
And my details are easy to find anyway. You want to give me a call?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Lisa. Yeah, I will.
Yep.
Thanks.
Thank you, Monica.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak who hasn't spoken yet from the public forum? You can either just raise your hand, or we can say, oh yes. So I think Selena. Welcome, Selena. That's right. Just take your time. We can't hear you yet. You're still on mute. Just
there we go. Yeah, I'm just here in regards to where we're at with the event. Sorry, I missed the start of the meeting, so I'm not sure if that's been on the agenda or not. But yeah.
Did you? Sorry, you just cut out a little bit there, Selena. Was it the airfield that you're wanting to ask about?
Yeah, I'm asking about the airfield. I'm just wondering if it's on the agenda.
Yes, so the airfield will be on the agenda just once we've finished the public forum and we get into our works and issues report. We'll be just touching on the airfield. If there's anything particularly you want to ask now, because you won't be able to speak once we talk about it as a board, but if there's anything you want to ask or if it will raise of concern or just share now, you could do it now, otherwise you can just listen later.
Yeah, I guess I just wanted to say that Boxing Day a few years ago, I watched an airplane fall out of the sky and nearly crash into a beach full of a lot of people. And ever since then, when I see an airplane fly overhead and they get pretty low, it makes me quite anxious and nervous, especially if you hear the engine kind of go bop, 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 bop. I'm like, oh no, you know, another one's going to fall out of the sky. So, you know, I use the airfield a lot for walking my dog as well. I have disabilities, so it's a easy access for me to take my dog there. I'm aware a lot of the history of the airfield and who it actually belongs to, and I think it belongs mainly to the people, and I don't think it should be used anymore for pilots to profit from and to be given at such a low cost in a way that takes away from what the public could actually be using it for.
Yeah, well, thanks, Selena, for raising your concerns and things. I think there's been a lot of work gone on, you know, and I don't expect you to kind of have read everything, but there's been a lot of work going on over the last year, just looking at the issue of the airfield, and council have been working with the community and the board on the safety issues. And then there's another separate issue, which is the longer term, the future of the airfield, and the council are working with Iwi and Hapa around that. So yeah, if you just the moment, yeah, I think if you just, when we talk about it in the agenda a bit later, we'll be talking about where it's at and where the works are at, and that'll give you an understanding, I think, of where we're at with the just, yeah, with the work the council are doing around the safety. Yes, Lisa.
Thank you, Selena. Nice to see you. Just with regard to Papahua in the airfield, it might be of interest if you haven't already. There's the Urupa Tuahu, which is by the Papahua boat ramp, and there is an information board that's there, and it's quite explicit actually from Hapu around the a small snippet of the historical narrative. And the idea of that has been spoken about the gift. It was actually a tuku, and there are 5 conditions to that. And so I would, really encourage you and other community members to go and read that narrative because it has come from the hapu, from Ngāti Mahanga Haurua, and specific to that entire area of Papahua. So just, if you haven't already read it, go down and read it actually.
Okay, is that by the helipad? That
No,
boat ramp?
no, Papahua at the camping ground, yeah. And so there's this white picket fence that's there, and there's a very old power site, not power site, Urupa, and it's there. So yeah, it's got a really good narrative from Hapu.
Cool, thank you.
Okay.
And Lisa, just can you clarify that is including about a half or 2/3 of the airfield area as well, or is there a definition on how much of the Ngāti Mahanga tuku encompasses the airfield and how much is the other hapu group in that information?
34, not there, it's 34 acres for Mahanga and it's 10 for the Newton family.
Okay.
Yeah,
and
which
cool.
goes down to the end of the airfield where the end of the airfield is, where the fence is on the western end, and that is the start of the Te Kōpua blocks from there.
Cool.
I think, Chris, you probably would have seen recently the post that was put on the Raglan notice board and was actually shared, I'm pretty sure, to our community board page as well, with some maps and information from Ngāti Mahanga around that. That sets that out quite clearly, doesn't it?
It does, from Rick Samuels, who's a representative.
Awesome, great work.
Thank you, Selena. Is there anybody else, community member, would like to speak in the public forum? Juliana?
Sorry about that. Yeah, I just had a quick question on the airfield. Is it used to, in case there's like a traffic accident or emergency, is it able to medically evacuate people to a hospital? I'm not sure, but that's my question. Is that ever been one of the uses for the airfield by chance?
Yeah, it probably has been. I don't know if that's something, Rob, that you might have some information on, since you've been working on the project, but I'm sure it would have happened in the past. I know that, imagine mostly at the moment it's the helicopter that comes in, doesn't it? And which generally lands, well, wherever it needs to land, but there's also the helipad by the fire station. So I don't know how much it's been used for that, Juliana. Yeah, or Dennis, maybe you might, would you know about that, Dennis? Have any knowledge of how often it's been used for emergency?
No, I don't know how often it's been used, but it has been used for emergency services. It was used a few months ago. The ambulance was transferring people to the Westpac helicopter, but what their frequency is, I don't know.
Did you want to speak to that, Rob?
Certainly, and thank you for asking. So the Westpac Care Flight helicopter will typically land in the closest destination to where they possibly can to transport people. So where possible, the pilot and that team will put down as close to wherever that incident is or where that care is required, and that is largely determined by the location of where the incident is. If the airfield is determined to be the closest safest place to be able to transfer somebody from an ambulance or immediate care to a helicopter, then it can be used. But the Raglan area is quite open in terms of helicopter access. So typically the Westpac chopper would land as close or adjacent to, as safely as they can, to any incident.
Thanks, Rob.
I like the idea, just briefly, I like the idea of keeping the airfield in case of extra emergency use, because we're already such a small town and, you know, we're away from Hamilton. And, you know, and so I think it's nice to have that service there. So I'm in favor of keeping it open.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Juliana. Yeah, appreciate
you.
that. Yeah. Is there anybody else in the public forum who would like to speak? Just need to either raise your hand if we can see you on video, or use the hands up emoji. Yeah, Selena.
I just wanted to point out that the helicopters don't need very much space to land, whereas the airfield, its purpose is for airplanes, which is a much bigger area that it needs. So to keep it open just for emergency services isn't really relevant, because you can still have a helicopter landing site there. You don't need very much space for that. And mainly, like, the fact that it is a big grassy open field space is one of the good things about it. I don't think we should close it off and fill it up with stuff, you know. I think that closing the airfield wouldn't take away from it being used for emergency services.
Thanks, Selena, for your thoughts on that. Chris, did you want to?
Madam Chair, just highlight referencing the Mike Haynes report into the safety of the Raglan aerodrome. And one of the things he did highlight was a conflict between potentially the Westpac helicopter and other airplanes using the airfield in the time of an accident, that the helipad is actually in the flight path of the approach of one of the runways. So there is actually already a safety conflict identified in the Haynes report between the helipad and the airfield. So removing the airfield would actually make conditions potentially safer for the Westpac helicopter to attend an incident in central Raglan, worth noting.
Yeah, that's a good point, Chris. I don't know if you know, Selena, if you know that there's been a recent report by Mike Haynes around the airfield that's got quite a lot of information in there, and that information's on our community board website. Yeah, but thank you for coming to the meeting and raising those things. It seems like we don't have anybody else from the public forum. So what we usually do in a Zoom meeting now is that we ask that those of you who are attending the public forum, if you could please leave the Zoom meeting. It just means that we can make sure that we have the best connection for our meeting. But if you would like to continue listening to the meeting, you can do so. So all you need to do is just go to YouTube and type in Waikato District Council, and the live stream of the meeting will come up. So you can all continue to listen, but you won't be able to be on the meeting in this way. So thank you very much for coming along, and I hope you do continue to listen, especially if you wanted to hear about the airfield, which will be coming up probably not too long in our meeting. So thank you.
Copy and paste the URL in the top left corner as well, rather than just in the
Oh
YouTube.
yeah, that's right.
Click the arrow YouTube and it says copy streaming link.
Thanks, Chris. Forgot about that one again. That's great. So we're going to continue with our meeting now. We are going to go onto our reports. So on page 18, we have our discretionary fund report.
Through you, Madam Chair, we're happy to just take that report as read. I note that we do need to make contact with the Whangaroa Raglan Destination Management Organisation to make sure that we get that invoice to make that final payment.
Yeah, just a note on that one. I have sent the invoice to Matt, but Alison, if there's an issue with that, let me know. But I'm pretty sure that's gone through to you, Matt.
Yeah, it has.
Yeah,
Great.
thank you very much. Yeah, but that's great. And also just to say, just recently it was discussed with council staff and with the community board that we've actually got a new process for our discretionary fund, and we're just working on that with council. Hopefully soon we'll have the information and the application form available on, it'll be on the council website, but also on our community board website, so that community members know what the process is to apply to the fund, and also that we as board members know quite clearly the process for that. So yeah, so there was an application that came in recently, but we felt that it was too soon, too close to our meeting, and that we wanted just to really have a good understanding of the process and ideally have it in our agenda. But that is something that we may talk about with you, Alison and Matt, because it's quite a long time until our next meeting now. It's February. So yeah, we just need to understand if there's a way that the board can, are you wanting to say something?
Yeah, just with regard to that, Gabriel, Alison, you might be able to answer this. We had and it's got to do with the discretionary fund. We had a meeting last week with the police, council staff, the ambulance, Extreme Zero Waste, the Surf Life Saving, myself, Gabriel, and Dennis were there as well. And so we had discussed about having a new Welcome to Raglan sign, and Extreme Zero Waste has made a commitment to put $2,000 towards that sign, so we can, and they're doing up some wording. And so are we able to, as a community board here on this, be able to set aside a portion like $2,000 or something like that to, if it's needed, to finish that sign?
So through you, Madam Chair, I haven't got my head fully around what you can and can't be doing, but I believe that the new rules are such that it's largely up to you to make the decisions on things like this. I'll check after the meeting, but I believe that is the intent, that the discretionary funds are for you to manage. So I think that sounds like a reasonable request, yes.
Yeah, I know in the past there's been a certain limit that we as a board have been able to approve.
Yeah, so it was $1,000.
Yeah.
I guess if it's now transitioning, and this is the piece that for you all to be on the same page, I think this is the piece that we need to understand how you wish to run your discretionary fund.
Yeah, and I think we just need to be clear about that. So I suppose that's even just, this is the first time that, Lisa, we've talked about this. Dennis, you were at that meeting with the emergency services and things, where you heard the sign being talked about. I think, so I suppose it's just letting the rest of the board know, Chris, Satnam and Tony know that that is something that the board might consider. But I suppose we can do that. We won't be doing that now. It's something that we will do, I would say, once we're a bit clear about what we can do.
I'll check after the meeting and just make sure that the rules haven't changed. I believe that they have through this process, but I'll just qualify that, and I'll send that via an email to you, Gabrielle, and if you can then forward it to the board.
Yeah, that's good. I think that's the way to do it. Yeah, sorry, Chris.
So will that be the DMO applying for the money from the community board, or literally the community board applying for money from the community board?
Yeah, it's nothing to do with the DMO.
Okay, so are you basically asking, are we allowed to apply for money from our own fund? So would it be the Raglan Community Board? Would we have to go through the formal application process of applying to ourselves for the money for the sign, or how does it work?
I don't know, that's why we asked. So it might be that we can air tag, you know, that's why I asked the question.
But surely we still have to go through a formal process that's accountable to the public. We can't just like go, oh, we want to spend money on this, we want to spend money on that. Like, yeah, that's right. So that's why we're just asking Alison, while we've got you here, Alison, just to understand, what that process might be like, because it's kind of new. But I agree, Chris.
And I think we all agree that
Yeah.
there needs to be some, well, absolutely needs to be formality with the discretionary fund.
Yeah.
So we're just working that out. Yeah. Thanks for that, Lisa.
Okay.
So I'm going to move on now, unless there's any questions on the discretionary fund. I'm going to move on to our next report.
There's a hand up. Democracy.
Oh, sorry, Lynette.
I'm just letting you know that Huntly Community Board has just gone through the same thing with a Welcome to Huntly sign.
Right.
And what they did was they committed funds, but then they went out and they sourced 3 prices to get that done, and then chose the one that they wanted and consequently purchased the signs. So you don't have to, the board doesn't have to apply to the board.
Mm-hmm.
From what we understand, it's just you can set aside a commitment and then you have to work through the process. But Alison, if you just want to confirm that, but that's how we did it for Huntly.
Yes, I think it's just the amount that we're confirming rather than the process. Yeah.
We don't even know an amount either. It was just like,
No, well, they didn't either. They just committed funds. So they committed up to, I think it was $5,000. And
Mm-hmm.
then once they got all the prices, and I think it was something like 2.5 or something like that.
Yeah, no, that's really helpful to know, Lynette, actually, just that, so it was almost like a community board project.
It was, yeah. I think,
that-
and they also put it out to the community to actually design the sign.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. That's
And
been
had a
really helpful.
competition. Yeah.
Yeah, sounds great. Thank you. So we'll move on to page 20, which is our works and issues report. I'm going to take the report as read, unless there are any questions on the report from board members. Satnam, are you able to turn on your camera, please, just so that we can see your face? That's great. Thank you very much. Yeah, Dennis.
Yeah, Gabriel, just on the Mana Bay Breakwater one, I see Tim Clark is now looking at a meeting in February regarding the boat ramp. I'm just concerned that we've basically got to another summer and we still haven't progressed this really in 12 months. I'm also concerned that Tim Clark seems to be growing the scope on this for some unknown reason. I don't know who's in his ear, but things like erosion and Purakawa tree planting and things have now come into it. The real issue is over the boat ramp, the issues of the surge up the ramp and the overtopping and whether we cap it. And I think we need to go back to Tim Clark and say, hey, the focus is in these areas. The scope hasn't changed. I've had concerns for the fishing club again, and that thing's raised with me. So I think we just need to be careful that he's not growing that scope, and we are just focusing on what the issues are.
Yeah, thanks for that, Dennis. I don't know if is that something that Roger would do? Is that something that you want to comment on, Roger? I mean, we as a board can go through whether it's you, Roger, or not, or to Tim and express those concerns and have some response. But do you want to speak to that at all, Roger?
All I can say is that the project team back at council, I'll have a yarn with them and just find out what's going on in terms of the scope and the timing of the various conversations. Because I'd agree there's been some things tried over the previous 12 months. But Dennis, you're asking some very clear questions around the surge, the overtopping, ongoing rocks on ramp, and what all that means in terms of the height of the breakwall. So look, those are the things that are the hub of this question, and we're all sort of waiting on information and meetings and surveys, but time is passing. So I'll ask the project team, and the board members are welcome to approach it from their angle as well. But collectively, I think we all just need to keep some pressure on keeping this moving forward.
Yeah, thanks for that, Roger. I mean, I know that it's a busy time and that for obvious reasons they've had to postpone it, but maybe it's good to ask that question, do we really have to wait till February? Can something not happen sooner than that? And I think we got to a very clear point, didn't we, where we had the report from the consultant. Was that like 5 months ago, 6 months ago, possibly? And, quite clear steps in terms of a way forward. Yeah, so thanks for that, Roger. It'd be good to hear from you about that. Dennis, are you happy just to stick on to that one? with support, of course. Are there any other questions on the Works and Issues report from the board? Or anything you would like to raise?
I guess just on Papahuia, which I assume is on there somewhere. Oh yeah, there it is. The question got asked to me a little while ago was in that other meeting that we had last week with the emergency services about the marking of the boat ramp and the soccer fields. Historically, it was done by the fishing club, but more the last 3 years, it's been the council's had it done by Raglan Lawns, I think it is. And we need to ask council if they can do that again. But we also need to mark the soccer field to avoid the confusion where people park. A couple of weeks ago, boat trailers had cars parked behind them and were finding it difficult to get out and things like that. So if we can have both the existing parking area marked and also the new soccer field parking area marked, it would probably help, and it'd also mean that the parking is a lot more efficient. We're not got guys just parking where they want to park, so we can utilise it a hell of a lot better. Yeah, that's good actually. Thanks for bringing that up, Dennis. So in a way, maybe we're adding that onto the Works and Issues report because it's not a specific item on there at the moment. So is that good? Yep. I was going to say there's two other things that the fishing club guys rung me about and asked me because they couldn't make the meeting today. One is the washdown tap that was relocated. I did speak to Megan Lisa on that. She's got, well, obviously she's got a few reasons why not to relocate it back, but I think the feedback I'm getting is everyone does want it back where it was. There only seems to be 2 people that actually want it where it is now. So I think we do really need to look at moving that back, and I asked Roger if he could just have a talk to Megan about getting that relocated back to where it was. I don't think we did think of it when I talked to Megan about trialling it and seeing if it would work where it is, but the feedback I'm getting is people want it back where it is, just a lot more efficient if 2 boats can wash at the same time. And yeah, we might be losing a little bit of water because someone washes their car occasionally there and things like that, but the service we're providing to boaties from out of town, a lot which stay at the Papahuia camping ground and a lot which stay in town and that sort of thing, I think is quite beneficial to the community. Thanks, Dennis. Lisa, did you?
And also just following on with that about a tap being put on one of the bollards on the pedestrian side by the Urupa would be helpful, because then then the kayakers and wakaama can still access water if it's on the bollard and you have the 2 washdowns. So it's like adding an extra tap.
And probably, it's all right, Roger's taking notes, I noticed. That's good. Hey, the other thing that we talked about, Lisa, was the locking of the gate to the parking for the boats in the soccer field. And I've talked to them about Noel's suggestion that it'll be unlocked at 7:30. The feeling is that by 7:30 they will have parked all the way up the side of where all the beach users park. That's 7:30 is probably too late for most boaties. And they're asking, Shane suggested that Shane Gold or someone, probably Shane, has a key, so that on weekends like the one coming this Saturday, he can go down there and unlock it at 6 o'clock. Or something like that on the occasions that we know it's a fine weekend, we're going to get a lot of boaties, we can actually make sure it's open ourselves at 6 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, thanks for that, Dennis. We've definitely been keeping a good eye on what's happening down in that area. It's been really helpful. So Roger, have you made a note, or Lynette, have you made a note of those things to follow up? Is that for you? Is that the way we want to do that?
I guess we've look, I have made some notes. I'm hoping that Democracy's made some notes as well. Ultimately, just out of interest, have you all met Caleb Bahu yet? You have?
Yeah. Okay, not everybody, but we, Dennis, Lisa, myself, have in person recently.
So most of these issues are in Caleb's workspace now. So I see he was taking some notes too, which is helpful. Between all of us, we'll capture them. I guess what I've picked up on is marking of the parking area and soccer fields. That's over at Papahua. I've got the question of Megan about the washdown tap, whether it can be moved back to where it was. And then Lisa, you mentioned something about a tap on a bollard. Was that near the Urupā over on the campsite? Yep.
Yeah,
and then,
yeah, sorry.
no, that's all right. And the last one was in terms of the gate being unlocked at 7:30, which is too late, and the request of whether Shane Gold from the fishing club potentially could get a key so that he could open it at 6 a.m. if there was a busy day. Those were the items that I've noted down.
Yeah, that seems all pretty clear. Thank you, Caleb, Roger, and Lynette. And I suppose just with you know, the season coming up and the date that we have, there are probably things, I know you're all busy, but there are probably things that need to be actioned sooner than like this side of Christmas, ideally. Or yeah, it's going to be busy, right? Thank you. If there's anything we can do to help, detail or anything, just let us know. Are there any other questions? Alison.
Sorry, I just wanted to come back to the question that was asked around the discretionary funds. I have had a response from Leanne van der Beem already. Yes, you can allocate more than the $1,000 in the new process.
Awesome. Thanks very much, Alison. Chris.
Is there any point keeping the inter-Raglan bus service on the works and issues? Like nothing's happening. I don't know, like looks like funding's gone. Like seems to be a dead duck.
As far as I know, I don't think it's a dead duck. I think something's going to infrastructure, to the next infrastructure meeting, which I don't actually know when the next meeting is, but would that be coming up? Is there another one before the end of the year?
No.
I'm pretty sure that's what I remember, Chris, from last from our last meeting. Is that something would be going
before
the infrastructure?
Yep.
So it'll be early next year then.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't heard back from Gareth. Have you? Like, I thought he might have been on today's meeting. I mean, doesn't seem to be much happening in the space unless you know more. Maybe you want to update the board about.
So as far as I know, yeah, Gareth is still working on the bus. I don't think it's been ditched or anything like that. It's just that there was no external funding, so they had to look at the internal funding for it. And a proposal had to be put forward to the infrastructure committee, as far as I understand, as the next step, which sounds like it won't be till next year, early next year for their first meeting. But Chris, what we can do is I'm sure Gareth will be happy to give us a further update. So I don't think we remove it at the moment. I think it's still live. Yeah. I know it's slow and it was disappointing not to get the other funding, you know, but that's where it's at.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you want to, you know, like chase it up or see if there's anything we can do to support it, just get in touch with me and we can contact Gareth.
I mean, I've been chasing it up for a year and not getting any response, so you may as well take me off that, because I don't see until we have something to talk about. Like, I don't really understand. Like, Satnam and I reached out to Gareth multiple times and never really managed to set up a meeting. So until the council have something concrete, yeah, it's just hard to work. So we've been waiting like how long?
Yeah, I understand. I think until it goes to infrastructure and there's some kind of commitment or decision made, there's nothing we can do. There's not much point in talking about details and bus routes and so yeah, I know that you're interested. So when something happens, I'll make sure you know about it. Yeah.
And do you want to move on to the airfield inside works and issues, or is that going to be a separate agenda item? Because I see it in works and issues, but do you want to do that later?
No, in works and issues. Yep. So we're just going through the works and issues report. If any community board member has something they want to raise or talk about, then just go for it.
Okay. Well, obviously, many people in our community are upset and annoyed at the council for constructing a fence on the airfield. That's pretty much it. I would just have to voice the concerns that have been raised with me and share them with the board, and say that as a whole, it feels like the resolutions from our last board meeting were ignored, and the council's just gotten on with it and done it as they have decided to. So just have to let it play out now.
Yeah, thanks for expressing that, Chris. Sounds like you've been talking to a few people, and I imagine the concerns are, it's probably nothing new. I imagine they're all the concerns and the things that have been raised before. Would anyone from council like to speak at all? I mean, I don't see that there was any specific questions, but Rob, do you want to respond to that, or Roger at all to to Chris?
Yeah, look, if I can just acknowledge your sentiments, Chris. We know there are members of the community who are upset and who are annoyed, we can understand why that is. In terms of the resolution that you put forward, the council has considered that, and you had the mayor and all councillors meeting with the chair of the community board to talk about that resolution. So I believe that it hasn't been ignored. It has been considered. At the end of the day, the councillors have instructed staff or reconfirmed their desire for the Mike Haynes recommendations to be implemented. And so that's what staff are now doing. But I can understand the sentiments you bring to the meeting, and it is your job to represent various members of the community. We are aware of that, and we are trying to balance all those needs as best we can.
And will the costs be borne by the pilots for all of this new safety improvements plus the ongoing maintenance costs? Because there was a big discrepancy in terms of the money brought in and the money spent on the airfield.
Yeah, look, that's a good question. And look, we've actually had a Lagoima request from, I think it was Raglan 23, in terms of what the monies that the airfield have brought in are, what the revenue is. And so we'll be responding to that shortly, but we can kind of share that information. So we do know that 2021 financial year, there was just under 6,000 worth of fees paid by pilots. And we know that this year we haven't even got to 500 yet. So there is a big shortfall between operation costs and the amount of revenue that we're gaining from pilots. In terms of, are they going to be made to pay the full costs? That would have to be in our fees and charges, and they're already set. And so there isn't at the moment an intention to review or increase those fees. But I think through this process, we've had a very clear steer that there needs to be a careful consideration of benefits and costs. And so that is something that moving forward, we will need to do. In terms of discrepancies in the information we've given you, I guess the first thing to do is to acknowledge there was an error and apologise for that. The information in front of you still isn't 100% correct, and that's not helpful. And so to give you a clearer picture, the mowing cost in that table in front of you is an order of magnitude wrong in terms of, we can tell you it's between 30 and 40,000 for the mowing costs. Now, there is commercial confidentiality and sensitivity around the number. That's why I've given you a range. The number in the agenda, we calculated it based on area and some rates, etc. And we just got that one wrong. So I apologise for that. And then in the first version, we actually double counted when we tallied it up. There was a formula issue, and so that wasn't picked up. So look, totally sorry for that. And in terms of the fencing costs, the first version you got, again, we didn't have the exact quote, so we were trying to do it based on the length of the fence, so the per metre rate. And we were actually looking at a different type of fence, a board and rail fence, rather than the type that's going up there now. So there was a big discrepancy between what the design of the fence, the cost of the final fence, and the quote we got from what we initially put in the agenda. And so I suppose as soon as we had more up-to-date information and we identified the areas that occurred, we tried to fix them as soon as we could. As I've said, still not 100% right, that table, in terms of the mowing costs. If we replace that first line with a range between 30 and 40,000, then I'd have a lot more confidence in the information before you.
Well, at the end of the health and safety improvements, fence, marker boards, the rest of it, will we get a breakdown of actual costs incurred?
Yeah, so look, at the moment, the marker boards one is an indication as well, because that's our best guess. I can't see why we can't provide some of those numbers to you in terms of what we spent to get it up to the right safety standard.
No one I've talked to thinks you can build 1.2 kilometres of fencing for 30 grand. I mean, maybe you've got some deal, but it seems unrealistic, the new numbers, whereas the old numbers were maybe too far the other way. Seems like it's swinging around.
Yeah, and it all comes down to the design of the fence. So to build a fence that works the best it can, but also works in with the environment there, we've essentially got posts 5 metres apart, and we've got a fabricated sort of square mesh fence in between. So there's no battens. So that's a big cost saving. So the design of the fence that we're getting put up is part of the reason for that low cost. And yes, I have heard there's questions as to, is it too low? No, we have a firm quote from a reputable company doing the works for us, and that's what we've accepted.
And that design's been approved by the health and pilot recommendation, because I wonder the pilots will be able to see that fence with no battens, no top wooden railing there. It's just going to be a whole lot of half rounds every 5 metres apart.
Yeah, so we've been working in with Mike Haynes and the CAA team. Rob, can you confirm that they're comfortable with where we're at in terms of the scope of works we're looking at doing?
Certainly, and through you, Madam Chair. The process that we've gone so far is where we're working with Mike Haynes and an aviation draftsman, and then those plans are then signed off effectively by CAA. So CAA is across it, and it's in keeping with CAA legislation.
Hey.
Did that answer the question? Did that answer the question, Chris?
Yeah. How much does it cost to land on the Raglan airfield at the moment?
Oh, I actually don't know. Is it a $10 fee or something, Rob? Do you know that exact number?
That was the number that came to mind, Roger. Yes, I believe that is the case.
And it's been the same for how long?
Don't know.
Because
a while, I assume.
Yeah, we recommended increasing that in the fees and charges review, and making it pegged towards the cost of the maintenance, but that seems to have also not been implemented. So it's just $10 again forever, or what?
Yeah, so it's not forever. I think this process has shown us the next available opportunity to review the fees. We will have a good look at that. Alison, are you able just to add to when that next opportunity is? It is an annual plan year, or is it the next time we do the full LTP?
So you can do it in an annual plan year. So we'll need to go through the process of understanding what a more reasonable charge would look like. So at the moment it is the $10. I'm just trying to see if I can find what we've proposed it would be in the following year. So if you're here with me, you carry on your meeting.
Yeah, I kind of understood that when the LTP was happening, that there would be an opportunity to work further on the fees and charges. We were actually looking at the boat ramps at the time.
Yeah.
So I feel that's something we as a board need to actually follow through with. If there's an opportunity next year that we look at the airfield and the boat ramps and any other fees and charges. So it'd be good to know that, Alison. But I got that feeling from, I think it was through Megan.
There's a sentiment in the community that it needs to jump, like not just go up by $2 or $3 every year gradually. There needs to be a significant jump in the landing fee to represent the cost of maintaining it. Like $10 is a joke. It should be of an amount significant to maintain the costs of operating, and something like 100 or 50 would be much more realistic for the people flying in and out.
Yeah, look, I acknowledge those sentiments, Chris, and we'll take that away with whatever the next process and opportunity to review that is. I guess we do need to just remember it is a district-wide rate that does fund this. So it's not specifically the Raglan community that's being disadvantaged, but it's a good point you raise, and we need to have a good look at it.
Yeah, I think even though it's district-wide, Roger, it's something that the district-wide should be interested in, like having something which makes sense, ideally. So, yeah, it's not like there's heaps of people out in the district with heaps of money to pay for it and we don't have, and we're raising it. I think it's probably just something that's good to raise generally. Can I just, thanks Chris for raising your questions. Are there any other board members that want to raise any questions or speak on the airfield? Alison.
I've just checked the fees and charges document. So when we do our long-term plan, we actually set fees and charges for a 3-year period to try and cut down on the administration costs of the consultation process, etc. That doesn't mean you can't then reconsult in a particular year.
Mm-hmm.
But at the moment, for the current financial year we're in, the charge is actually $12. For the following year, it's $14, and the year after that, it's $16.
Yeah.
If you're a regular use group, then actually you're paying more like $650 a year, going up to $662, and then up to $675. So there's a little bit of a different regime. And if you don't pay your fees, there's a penalty of $23 on top of that. So that's what we'll need to work with.
Thanks, Alison. We were just looking at some other fees and charges, but yes, that's helpful to know. I think there's still the opportunity. Couple of questions I had for you, Roger, possibly, or whomever. Did the council know the costs, these costs, when they made their decision?
No, they don't. They didn't know the specific costs.
Yeah, just a range or something.
Yeah, they're actually a lot of them are farmers, so they actually know better than us the costs of fences and what the contractor quotes would likely come out to be based on the length of fence. But no, we didn't have the exact numbers for the councillors.
Yeah, okay. So it seems like it would be important. Well, I'm assuming that the board would be interested to know once the works have been done and once you know what else you have in place in terms of the other things you're putting in place around the airfield. So it's not just physical, is it? There's also things about management and so forth. Mm-hmm. It would be quite good, I think, for that to come back to the board so that we actually understand what the ongoing costs are. So not just the mowing, but all of the ongoing costs, and even just to get a bit of a summary of what the project cost, considering our interest in it. And then maybe from there, that will help us think about whether we work on the fees and charges outside of the LTP, perhaps alongside the boat ramp and things.
Yeah, look, I'm pretty comfortable to, once we actually have completed all the recommendations, providing a bit of a tally up of it and the ongoing expected operational costs, where possible, where we don't breach any confidentiality with contractors, but yeah, absolutely, we'll do that.
So I understand the works, the fencing works are going to be over before Christmas, a couple of weeks.
Yeah, that's the intention. So we've suspended operations until the 20th of December. That's the, we don't expect it to take that long, but that's the window we've given ourselves from now till then. We'd like to think we might come in a few days earlier, but after the 20th, it should be open.
Okay, thank you. Chris?
In our discussions, there was talk about a small car park on the southeastern midway point. Is that going to be implemented at any point for dog walkers and the like to relieve parking restraints down the other end?
At this point, it's you're talking about halfway along it. Yeah. I think the team looked at doing that, and actually to formalise a car park there would have started costing quite a bit, and so the position has been to extend and formalise the car park down by Papahua entrance. So no, I don't think that is something that's on the cards at the moment. It's definitely not shown on the plan. Rob or Caleb, did you have anything to add to that one?
I can confirm that's what's on the plan and what's intended.
It was definitely looked into, Chris, but the cost of actually developing it and getting access to that area, etc., just started making the whole thing outside the scope of what we were considering at this point in time.
Lisa?
So
Thank you,
just
Roger.
further to that, to Chris's point, Roger, just by the Papahua camp entrance, is that going to be extended in this works? That area? I didn't know if that was or not.
My understanding is it is. Again, Caleb, Rob, you've seen the set out. Have they done any extension of that car park in towards the current airfield?
Yeah, good question. And through you, Madam Chair, at this point, what we're focusing on is keeping people safe, and that's first and foremost. And then the extension of that car park will be completed. Will that be completed before Christmas? That's going to depend on resources, but that will be included in the scope of work, yes.
Okay, that's great, because that was brought up by the Raglan Holiday Park Papahua Board for safety, for the extension of that for staff, particularly over the holiday season. So if we could get that done, if there was the resource, that would be really great.
Is that something, Rob, that you can, or Caleb, that you can find out about and give us an update on, please?
Certainly.
Thank you.
Chris?
Yeah, last point, just on safety, what's being done to mitigate any risk at the end of both of the runway, where now obviously people will walk between the new fence and the existing fence. There'll be an illusion, I guess, of safety for people who are just walking around and around the airfield, that they might feel safe, inverted commas, at the end of the runway because they're inside the walking area. What are we doing to make sure people know that that is not a safe place to be during landing or takeoff of an aircraft?
Really good question, Chris. Thank you for that. Look, we treat both ends of the runway kind of like a road. It's somewhere that you need to look left, look right, and move through at an orderly pace rather than stopping in the middle. So we're developing some signage. So we're having a look at whatever the CAA has in terms of existing signage in those situations. And if we haven't got any standard signs that we can borrow from CAA, we'll be coming up with appropriate signage at the beginning of each of those. Depending on what side of the runway, there needs to be a sign in front of you saying stop, have a good look, and don't hang around in that runway space.
Don't stand there and look up and watch the planes go over.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Okay, I think some good questions asked there. And anything else from you, Dennis or Tony or Satnam, on either the airfield or the works and issues report? I suppose that includes the quarterly transport update as well. Dennis?
Yeah, just a quick question. It's not in the works and issues report, but we've discussed it before, is the boat parking down at the dog walking area. We're in John Street, I think it is, so we're going to look at filling in the drain and make that available for boats. Is that still on the cards to be done? That being kiboshed altogether?
I think it has been, as far as I remember, because it was a while ago, it's kind of been pulled because there was some work done. I think the latest thing, there was some work being done on the wetland area there, or even to look, I'm just trying to think if it was a separate project or it was actually to look, the next thing would have been to actually look at the impact on the wetland of creating something there, and I don't think that work was ever done. I think some COVID related lockdown or something came and yeah, it just wasn't a priority. And I think that's something, if we want to, we can look at again. I mean, there's been some work done on it, so it's not like a completely new. I think there were probably a couple of options. One was actually just to fill in the drain, which I think was not, I know Noel did some work on that and looked at that, and actually it wasn't really suitable in terms of the health of the wetland. That was the thought then, and maybe that if we wanted to actually look at it further, there'd have to be some work done to actually look at it more closely. So that was one thing, was just to basically put a big sized heavy, like a metal, to fill up the drain so that people could use it. And then the other one would be to actually create a proper car park, which I think Gareth started looking at, but then that's when you needed to actually look at the bigger impacts of that on the area. Because obviously he's got a wetland area there. So
oh yeah, if you've got happy, Madam Chair, I'll have a chat to Gareth to find out where we've got to, whether it's been put on back burner for now.
it's totally on back burner. It has been for like 8-9 months. Yeah, but if it's something, if it's something that we want to talk about, I think we can just probably go, it would be best to go to Gareth again, because he knew where it was at. Yeah.
Okay.
Dennis, there's nothing stopping the guys using it unless they are actually using it at the moment. Because we put a bit of gravel in at two ends of the drain, and they can park on there, and they've been doing that.
Yeah, that's right. That you are right, Tony. And the only thing about that is it only allows like only a few vehicles because of the way that you have to enter and then exit. Whereas if there was metal put all the way along, it means that they can actually reverse back in, and then you get like a lot more. So yeah, that's right. They can use it, and they do use it now that it's dry.
Yep.
Okay, thanks. I'll pass it on.
Chris.
I'm just looking at the quarterly transport update. There's no mention of the intersection of Government Road, Manukau Road, and Bayview Road, unless I'm missing it. We over a year and a half ago, I think we brought this up about the 2 giveaway signs at the top of the hill and people coming in fast in government.
Mm-hmm.
And we were told it was going to be turned into a stop intersection. Can we get that back on the agenda? It's one of the most dangerous intersections in town.
It is in the report, Chris. So through you, it's on there. It says Government Road, Bayview, change giveaways to stop signs to be completed before 30th of June.
I think, yeah, thanks very much, Alison. Yes, Chris, thanks for raising it. It is on there. I think the to be completed before 30th of June may not be accurate. I just need to probably check that with council staff. But what I have heard, I did get an update the other day about that one, and it actually needs to go through the public spaces bylaw. I think that wasn't known at the time when we had initially had the conversation, Chris, with Gareth. But actually, that is going to be happening next year, and nothing can be done, as I understand, until it goes through the public spaces bylaw.
Can't even change the giveaway to stop.
I don't think so, from what I understand.
This is insane. Like, we can go to all this drama to put fences around an airfield, totally unnecessary, and where we've had accidents on accidents, we can't even put a bloody stop sign up. This is. I thought maybe we could go and do it ourselves. Well, no, they need to. I mean, is it like we had the ambulance report, and I'm pretty sure that 30th of June was 30th of June 2021, not 2022, because we first raised this as a highlighted point in March 2020 or something. Yep. Like this is probably one of the most dangerous intersections in our town, with multiple incidences. You talk to fire and ambulance, how many times they pulled out. And we're entering another busy summer period where people are going to get hurt at that intersection, and we've done nothing. And we need to take responsibility for that. Probably one of the most strongest pieces of health and safety risk in our town, and we've done nothing for nearly 2 years. Yep, I hear what you're saying, Chris. So maybe what we could do is maybe you and I could write something, put together. I mean, we don't hardly need to write anything because you've just said it and we know what needs to be said. But I think maybe we can go back to council staff and see if there is any way. It didn't sound like it the other day, but yeah, that one. Yep. When is the public places bylaw review been moved to now? So notice it's been pushed back. So it is next year, as far as I understand. I don't have the date, sorry. I don't know if that's something that you know. It was supposed to be September this year, but it's obviously not. Yeah, obviously a few things have changed this year.
That's something we can go back. I'm happy to do that with you, Chris. Go back to council staff and actually just say that it's actually really a concern, and actually it's been a long time. Like you say, it was raised last summer with some other things that felt really important then. So
I've only had a friend go there. I've had mates who like have literally been T-boned. Like, this is not this is serious. People's lives are at risk, and as town gets busier and Auckland comes down, it's mind-boggling that we haven't.
Yeah, people aren't familiar. Do you have any thoughts on that, Alison or Roger? I mean, I know I've talked to Gareth about the technicalities of it, but got any other ways that we can just, I'm sure council have ways of actually making stuff happen.
Worried about getting taken to prison for a plane crash, but you'd be happy for as many car accidents to go.
Yeah, look, I think it's another one of these very good questions you're asking, Chris, and it sounds like the right conversations are being had. Yeah, and so look, it is something that I'd like to talk to the team about. I kind of thought there was a little bit more scope for us to do the odd bit of works if it's an attachment to the public places bylaw. I thought there was a little bit of scope for us to do some things. So I'm quite interested to go and have a talk with staff about our ability, because what you're saying makes a lot of sense, Chris. If we've got an actual hazard and we're saying we need a different kind of sign there, and technical staff agree with that, then it seems a bit nonsensical as road controlling authority to not be able to change that. Alison, I actually don't know the situation, but if you know something more.
Well, so just to back up what Roger's saying, the traffic control aspects of the bylaw, the signage stuff appears to be very minimal. So I think we should sense check that approach and actually just make sure that we can't do something before then.
I think there was something around enforcing. So, but I think, well, even if you couldn't enforce it, wouldn't it still be better to have the sign? I mean, that doesn't sound great, but wouldn't it make, but yeah, I think it would be really great if you could look into it. Because it is, like Chris was saying, it's something that we raised at least a year ago as an issue then. So I know there's been a lot of challenges this year, but that is a long time.
A lot more than a year, nearly 2.
Just for clarity for me, I was just scrolling through your works and issues and trying to find where that item was. Which one was this?
It's in the quarterly update, which is that roading, footpaths, so forth. It's on page 33, about item 5 down on page 33. Okay. Government Road, Bayview, change giveways to stop signs.
Got it. Yep. Thank you for that.
And just to let the board know, Gareth is working on some parking signs, which we were trying to get done a year ago for last summer, to be done before Christmas as well, just to let you know about that. So hopefully we'll get those key ones in to sign people to improve our parking situation.
Do you think you might be able to ask Gareth to attend one of our meetings soon, so we could ask him questions on his next quarterly report? Because there's many questions I think that he might be able to answer better directly.
Yeah, I agree. I think it would be helpful when we do have the quarterly reports to actually have Gareth, or if there's another staff member but I think he knows about many of these things, to attend. Yeah, because I'm sure he would have been able to give us more answers. So certainly, Chris. Yeah. And I know that he's also happy anytime to have a meeting with the, if we arrange it with him. He's been quite willing in the past to have a meeting with board members to talk about these specific things. So yeah, we can do that too.
It would be great to see what they're proposing on this former State Highway 23 that's now revocated, because it says in the report that it's with the minister. But what's with the minister? Like, are we able to be privy to the suggestions there, or we just
wait? So
would
that be like the speed limit of the area that's been revocated?
It just says State Highway 23 will improve Greenslade Road, safety issue will improve Hills Road, Main Road Junction. with the minister. So that's all revocated. That's been revocated since the 30th of June.
Yep.
Yeah.
And now the next step is actually changing the speed limit. And I know there's a stage 2 of revocation to come, but it still goes from 100 kilometers an hour to 40, probably one of the only places in New Zealand on the main road. So now that it's council controlled road, what's been done to reduce that speed as people come into Raglan?
So that's going to be looked at in the speed limit bylaw, which is actually, I think all the consultation closes on, I think it's either the 23rd, so it's open now, and it closes on either the 16th or the 23rd of January. So there's about 3 different things that relate to Raglan, I think, mainly in there. One is that section of road, Chris, which I'm pretty sure there's saying is going to come down to 60.
So the problem, you've got this little section which is half revocated, which is former State Highway 23 from the 40k sign up to not quite Greenslade. And then obviously in the second stage of revocation, when it's ready, we'll be including Greenslade. Are we going to make a whole plan for the entrance to Raglan to make it safer? Or are we just going to do it bit by bit, wait for a little bit revocated and then improve this when this bylaw comes up, and then wait another until the bylaw review happens again and then improve? Like, why we don't have a strategic plan for making the entrance to Raglan a safe and abiding place to arrive?
So I'm pretty sure that if it goes from 100 to 60 to 40, that's going to make it a lot safer, right, than it is now. So that's the first, like we can do that, because that's right, you know, it's going to be happening really soon. In
no
terms
turning
of
bays on any of those intersections, there's no lines on the road, there's no, like, it's a mess.
Because it hasn't actually gone through the speed limit bylaw review, which is open now. So that's why we need to feedback on the speed of that section of the road. So if it does drop to 60, then that's when those other things can be put in place to actually lower the speed.
Yeah, and to put maybe other safety. So maybe that's something that we need to work on. With council, Chris. So not just the speed limit bylaw, which is coming up, but not just waiting till that's done and then doing the next thing, but actually thinking about what else. If there's something else that we feel that needs to happen specifically.
Yeah, well, there needs to be some traffic management planning for the intersection of Hills Road, Lorenzen Bay Road. And I know it's all developer driven based on a subdivision that may or may not happen in 10 or 20 years. But proactively, we need to actually have a strategy of how do we want the entrance to Raglan to look in the next 10 to 20 years, and what will be the safest road management strategies, and then how do we implement them? It just seems very ad hoc at the moment, and it's all, oh, we need to wait for this bylaw and we need to wait for that. And there's no real driving strategic plan. It seems to be like just kind of left up to chance.
Yeah, I think that's what we've talked about before, which is another thing which we've you know, actually pushed out further and further as a board for various reasons. We've talked about doing that longer term strategic planning around transport and things, and that's the thing I think would come into that. So I can see, Chris, that you're really interested in these things. I'm not saying that I'm asking you to do it on your own, but I'm just saying that if you know, this is something which is of interest to you, that maybe you can just drive this a little bit, you know, with the board. I don't see, there's no reason why you can't take the lead or work with me closely on that, you know. I know we've tried to meet recently, it didn't quite happen. But I agree with you. I think we do, it feels sometimes like things are a bit bitty, but I also think we need to appreciate what has been happening and the things that we have got done around the community. So it's that balance, isn't it, of appreciating what all the awesome footpaths and the connectivity and the things that have happened and the improvements, but actually doing that proper planning as well. So yeah, good points.
So Gabrielle, can we make sure that in this current speed bylaw that the speed change is considered, like the you know, there have to be some sort of language, but effectively once the whole revocation happens, you know, that the speed comes down from around the corner. You don't want to be in the situation where we've done the little bit just before the Simon's place there, and then we have to wait for the next bylaw change to bring it back around the corner, you know, beyond Greenslade. There's some way that the bylaw can effectively have a holding position for the second stage of revocation,
Oh,
so that
yeah.
as soon as it's done, bang, the 60k sign can go up, and then green say intersection is the risk is reduced.
Yeah, I think if that's possible, Tony, that really makes sense. I did hear something the other day that second part of the revocation could take quite a long time for different reasons. So, but I think that's, yeah, good point. Why not? And I suppose
Because the speed bylaw is what, 3 years, 5 years? It's it's been quite a while since last time.
yeah, probably every 3 years.
Was it in our last term or this term?
Seems like it was just the other day, but it's probably about 3 years, I think. Yeah, but that's a good point. We can do that. And I think the thing is, there's three bylaws or three things out for consultation at the moment with the council. There's probably maybe more, but I think, ideally the board would actually put a submission forward on all of those. So we've got the dogs and the Easter trading and the speed one. But yeah, I've made a note of that, Tony. Thank you. I thought this was going to be a quicker way of going through the works and issues report. I'm not saying that we don't want to hear this is great, like all good, but we were like, right, we're not going to go through bang bang. But anything else from the board on either the quarterly update or the works and issues? But all good points that have been raised. Thank you.
If there's no more questions on works and issues, is the chair happy if myself, Rob and Caleb depart the meeting?
Yes, thank you very much for attending, Rob.
Can I ask one
Roger
last
and Caleb.
before
you go?
Yeah, just before you go, just in terms of again, long-term strategic planning around parking. There's all these bits and bobs in the Roadley report, but we do really need to have a serious conversation about parking and the management of automobiles and the future. We need to start now so that in 5 years' time we're not still having a bitsy discussion. We really want to set up a process to work with the council to identify how we can improve the parking and the mobility of people around Raglan. And we need to know that we're able to do that on a journey that actually is going to achieve some viable outcomes.
Yeah, look, Chris, you raised a really good point, and I suppose in the last 6 months we've created a new role within the roading team, which is going to help us with that strategic planning. There's a lot of growth going on in the district, and we need to be front-footing the integration of new roading networks with their existing. That hasn't been going as well as we'd like, and so we've got a new position. We've appointed someone into that role, and so in the new year we hopefully will have there's a fair bit of work to do in this space, so prioritization is going to be the key, but we will have more capability to link up with communities where we are seeing growth pressures with the network and finding out what does it look like going forward in more detail than we have in the past. So look, your request is definitely heard. I'll be working with the roading team to share the insights that I've gained from this meeting. It's something we do need to sort of do some different work in that space. So very good point. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Roger.
Just before I go, it is your last meeting of the year. Thank you to all of you for the way you've worked with us this year. The work that the board has done is phenomenal in terms of just the volume, the operational stuff you've stepped into and either taken control of, driven, or worked with council collaboratively on. It's a really good working relationship we've got with this board, and it's a very special relationship because we don't see that throughout the district. So I'd just like to thank you all for your efforts this year. Really, really appreciate it. You're serving your community well, and I think you're getting some really good outcomes. So just thank you for the spirit that you've brought along that journey. Yeah, I've enjoyed the year working with you, even though we've had our tough moments.
Yeah, really appreciate that, Roger. Thank you, and totally agree that it's been challenging, a challenging year, and we've had some challenging projects and things come across. But it's made all the difference to be able to talk honestly and work together, and do the best we can, even if we don't always get what we want. But yeah, look forward to more of that next year, and just appreciate as well the appreciate having new people on the team as well, like you, Caleb. Look forward to getting to know you. And thanks for your work, Rob, even though you didn't return my call recently.
Excellent. Thank you for that.
Have a great Christmas, everybody, and take care, okay?
You too. Merry Christmas.
Thanks,
you.
team. Merry Christmas.
Okay, so here we go. I think we will move on now to page 35. Oh, sorry, that was me echoing. I thought it was someone else talking. Page 35, which is the schedule of meetings for next year. So yes, we do have another year community board to work together. And look forward to that very much, coming back refreshed. Now, I see that the recommendation was that the board continues to hold its meetings at 6 p.m. I think there was actually a mistake, and it's actually meant to be 1:30 p.m. Unless we want to change it, but it was actually meant to be 1:30. So are there any questions on these dates or times? All happy with that?
Yep, happy.
Okay, so I move that the Raglan Community Board continues to hold its meetings at 1:30 on the 6-weekly cycle on the following dates as set out in the... Do I need to read those out, Lynette? Great, thank you. All in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
And we have page 36, Chairperson's report. I'm just having a look at some notes here, sorry. I'm taking it as read and just seeing if there's anything else that we need to talk about. I don't think so. Any questions on my report? Look forward to the Christmas cake being delivered. But I would like to just say, I know I've got it in my report, but I really would like to say thank you all to the new board members. It's been really great working with you all this year. And I just fully appreciate all the energy and the effort and the action that you've done, the questions that you asked Chris and Tony, keeping us on track, and Dennis doing all your work out in the field, working on those 2 big projects, and Lisa just being awesome as usual, doing what you do, and Satnam keeping an eye on things as well, and taking part as you do. So yeah, I really appreciate that. Yeah. And just to let you know as well, that's the last day for the election, by-election tomorrow. So if you want to put some reminders out to people, say go vote, vote, then you can do that. And also that you probably know, but the new board member, if we have someone, I'm sure there'll be somebody voted in, they'll be sworn in at our February meeting, first meeting of next year.
And if anyone has had anyone go, they haven't received their voting papers, they can actually go down to the library and do a special vote, because there are a few people that contacted me that didn't have theirs.
Gayleen, did you want to speak?
I just wanted to say that anyone that's putting in voting papers now, they should really go and take them down and drop them into the ballot box at the library. Because voting closes at noon tomorrow, and postal is unlikely to get through to the electoral officer before then.
Sure, thanks for that, Gayleen. Is there something that I don't actually know if you have, but as council, are you planning from the democracy team to put any little note out to the community, a reminder or anything, or are you just leaving it as it is?
Facebook reminder has gone out today, I believe. I think Ali mentioned in that update that she was going to put another Facebook thing out that people would have to put in their votes into the ballot box tomorrow, or cast a special vote if they didn't have papers. So, and then Dale hopes to have a result, because what will happen at 12 o'clock is Amy's done a declaration that she can open the votes, scan them and send them through to the electoral officer. So by that night, we should have a preliminary result.
Yeah, thanks for that, Gayleen.
No worries.
Great. So I'm going to move on to Councillors' report, page 41.
Yep. Any questions?
No, I don't have any questions to you, Lisa, but thank you again for covering such a broad range of issues in our community and attending council meetings.
Thanks.
Yeah. And we have page 43, board members' reports. So I think, Tony, yours includes Raglan naturally update, so we won't be doing a separate verbal report on that. So I will take the reports as read. If anyone has any questions to either Tony, thank you for your report, or to Dennis, fire away.
That's just heaps of, I just want to say that's heaps of work, Tony and Dennis, on those projects, and the Raglan naturally, Tony, that's been pretty massive actually. So just thanks heaps.
Just on the Raglan Wharf, just don't forget there's a walking tour next Thursday, 4:30 to 6:30 for the general public. Becca will be there along with council members and hopefully a few of you guys to explain to the public what's going on. Chris, you around? And there's also a meeting this Friday at 9:30 to look at the pontoon with the fishing club guys.
Yeah, yeah. Good work, Dennis. I really like those info boards that are around town.
Oh yeah, and the special thing here. Well, we didn't actually do that, did we? You can't really see it, but anyway, just to remind you that these leaflets are at the library, and they open out. They're quite cool to have a look at. So you might want to grab a few and spread them around to your friends, or have some at Foursquare maybe. What's that upside down? Yeah. Chris, you can't leave yet. I can't see your face. We're nearly done.
And Tony, we need some, I've copied you on a couple of emails. We need some feedback on what the rowing club guys want as far as infrastructure or anything like that is concerned in 20 or 30 years' time.
Awesome.
Hey Dennis, you know the signs are they're all around town. I was just noticing there was one outside the takeaways. Is there a way that we can put up like a scan QR code so people just scan the code and the link just pops up?
I thought they were. I haven't had a look at them.
Yeah, it's on the signs.
It's on the sign.
I'm pretty sure there wasn't, because maybe it's covered with a sticker or something. The one outside the fish and chip shop, there wasn't a code there.
Ah.
Okay, there is the one at the iHub. There's one at the iHub and one.
Okay, well, I'll have another look when I go get some dinner tonight.
Just check someone's put a sticker over it because it was there. The QR code was on it because that's where I first saw it.
Right. Yeah, they're definitely on the leaflets. Thanks for noticing that, Satnam. Tony, did you want to speak to your report at all?
No, take it as read.
Wonderful. Well, I think that is the end of our meeting. Thank you all for your attendance, and thank you Lynette and Matt and Gayleen and Alison. Wish you all a very happy, I won't say that word, Merry Christmas. Yeah.
Didn't we go out for a drink last year?
Last year we did.
Yeah. Well, let us know if you're out in Raglan, and I'm sure we'll whip something up.
Tony's just put a notice on chat if you want to go for drinks.
Who does? Chris?
Tony, I think. Flash past. I'm just trying to find.
Well, you can always come and join me on the deck out here and look at the water.
We'll do that offline.
Great.
Okay.
See you, everyone.
Happy holidays.
Thank you.
Gotcha.